You're listening to the UAE's #1 talk radio station.
This is the Business Breakfast
On Dubai Eye 103.8.
We're about to have a bit of a science lesson this morning because Shorooq Partners, the investment company, has led a $37 million round of funding into an Omani climate tech startup even, that removes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. We're very pleased to be joined now by Dr. Bilal Baloch, who is a partner for Shorooq Partners. Good morning, Dr. Bilal. It's lovely to see you.
Good morning, Brandy. Thank you for having me.
So the company 4401 uses mineralisation technology to pull CO2 out of the atmosphere. How does it do that? How does the science work?
Yeah, good question. So essentially what we're doing here is taking carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, liquefying it and injecting it into peridot rock. Now, peridot rock is typically found sort of 40 kilometers under the Earth's surface, but in some parts of the world, Oman being one, it's sort of risen to the surface. And when this liquefied form of carbon dioxide is injected into the peridot rock, it turns itself into rock and is therefore eliminated and permanently stored.
So you've got a type of carbon dioxide capture then. Mm-hmm. A lot of CO2 capture technology has a lot of controversy around it, the way that it's done, the materials it uses, etc. How does this eliminate some of those worries?
So I think the clue is in the word. This is elimination. This is not carbon capture that then needs to be constantly tracked, insured, monitored. This is a total elimination of carbon dioxide inside that rock. And therefore, it's safer, it's not going into the atmosphere. And it also provides a much more predictable form of markets and trade for, say, for example, trading with carbons in carbon markets.
So if it's that clever, why isn't everybody doing it?
Well, this is what innovation is about, right? It's about moonshot ideas and actually executing on it. And so we've come across a company here and a set of founders here that have actually gone and said, we're going to build the technology and actually turn it into a viable business and make it scalable. They've started in Oman. They're doing it in the UAE. And these same types of rocks are found actually quite in every part of the world, in Scandinavia, in the Americas. So we have a scalable solution here, a safe solution here. At Shorooq, we see these kinds of projects and investments all the time. But this is one that we think is really going to be the gold standard.
Are you able to do it everywhere? I mean, does it depend how close the rocks are to the surface? Does it work better in some areas than others?
It does, and it also depends on capacity, right? So actually, in Oman alone, the capacity of these peridot rocks could capture all the carbon dioxide that's ever actually been produced in history. But you don't want to completely max out capacity just in one place. And so there's going to be expansion, global expansion, exploration of these peridot rocks in different parts of the world. One of our co-leads on this investment is Equinor Ventures. Now, Equinor being the national oil company from Norway, Norway has been attempting at some form of carbon capture since the mid-90s. Some successful, some not. And so we have an experienced partner with us on board here to help 4401 along their journey.
Okay, so what is your $37 million? Well, that's the round of funding that you've led. There are other people in it, including Amazon, interestingly. What's that going to allow this company to do?
So I think two things, deepen the tech and global expansion, right? The technology here needs to be incredibly precise, incredibly safe and scalable. So there is an ambitious plan to remove 1 billion tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere by 2040 by 4401. We're able to do this mineralization process in under 12 months, which otherwise would take decades. And so the goal is that as the tech develops, deepens, becomes more sophisticated, we can even speed up that process. And then the other is, of course, global expansion, the exploration of more of these peridot rock formations around the world, testing them, having partners internationally that can go into this with us.
Okay, but you guys are not a charity.
No.
You are an investment company. How does this get monetized? Who would pay to use this technology? Is it governments? Is it oil companies?
I think both, but there's a third factor here as well, which is consumers, right? Carbon credits are becoming a key part of how consumers and retail investors are engaging in the offset market. Now, like I mentioned earlier, carbon markets have typically suffered from some insecurity around, how carbon capture technologies or climate technologies are being insured, the lasting impression they're leaving. This is the gold standard of how carbon is going to be eliminated.
Carbon credit markets, though, also have a bit of a bad rep because of what they're used to offset. So even if the initial project is good, they can be seen as a bit of a green light for the companies who buy them, or the governments who buy them, to do whatever they want rather than actually improving their own practices and greening themselves. It's the offset. How do you stop that from happening?
Human greed will exist. And, what we're looking to do is build technology, invest in technology that is able to actually do some good. And so here's a technology that is focused purely on carbon elimination, eliminating carbon through injecting it into this peridot rock. And the incentives around it are able to lend itself to a much more sustainable, predictable form of carbon markets that is available to companies and individuals to be a part of. Now, if companies are using investment into carbon credits to offset their own exposure, that's a balancing act that's going to allow us to chip away at climate change, which is such a huge issue right now that we need to have a much more holistic approach to net zero.
Well, you're not the only guys who've noticed the potential here. This technology has already won an Earthshot prize,
Correct.
For example. How big could it get?
I think huge, but I think we have to all be careful that there is no silver bullet solution here when it comes to fighting climate change. I think what excites us most about 4401 is the elimination point. A few years ago, we invested in a company that said we're going to grow fruits and veg out of the desert. People laughed at us. Today, Pure Harvest Farms produces some of the most delicious strawberries that some of your listeners are probably enjoying right now at the breakfast table. We've invested in a company called Immensa Labs that wanted to change the way oil and gas companies are able to 3D print spare parts, thereby reducing their own footprint that's negatively impacting the atmosphere. Again, it's now become a household name. So we think 4401 is going to go down a similar path of regional depth and then global expansion in fighting climate change.
Okay, well, 1 minute left with you. We've had the pilot projects in Oman and in the UAE. What are the next steps?
So the next steps are to build out the team. At Shorooq Partners, we're an alternative investments manager, and so we go beyond just cutting checks, and we actually get involved to help our company. So we're going to be helping 4401 with getting some of the best talent from around the world under its tent, global expansion, and deepening its tech.
What does it need? What's it lacking?
4401 needs some of the best talent from around the world. We've seen in other industries, in other sectors, some of the best people flocking to this part of the world, and we're hoping that many of them will come in and join us on the 4401 journey.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Dr. Bilal Baloch is partner at Shorooq Partners. They've just led a $37 million round of funding, a number of big names in that funding, including Siemens, including Amazon, to invest in that carbon elimination technology. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.